All right, Nicodemus here. I wanted to start off today's episode with a video that I was watching, and it made an imprint on me. So basically, I was watching this guy, and he was talking about how God is all-knowing, and got super bored, and created this world, and then fractured himself off into each one of us, having us forget so that he could just be entertained. And experience life through different eyes.
Yeah. I mean, it's so funny because this is such a debate, and that whole idea comes from the East. You know, the Maya, it's like Brahman or God couldn't experience, right? Which is really interesting because in what you said is that God, being everything all-knowing, got bored. Boredom implies a duality. So like you can see already, we're trying to project onto God the way our mind works, and our mind in perception works in dualistic opposites. But how can God, which is eternity, how can a mind that only understands time and separation and beginnings and endings understand eternity? It can't. So this is a really deep conversation, and actually it's turned up in Course in Miracles community in terms of, well, does what is saying in the East, is it saying the same thing as the Course? Now, for me, my background being the gurus in India, and having been around that conversation for most of my life, and then the Course itself, and then even reading within A Course in Miracles, there's like the Ken Wapnick group that very much adopted a lot of that non-dualistic, there is no others. So like Ken Wapnick, like you're forgiving, there is no one else out there. Then the Circle of Atonement came along, and they got Helen's original notes and then did their own version of the Course, which they started to really challenge that idea. And I want to say this for the purpose of this conversation. You just have to understand, we cannot understand knowledge. We can't understand eternity with our mind. We'll get glimpses of it if we're lucky. And that's why the Course says God is, and then we refuse to say anything else. But if you think about it, God didn't make the world of duality, the ego did. We made the ego. So we made it as a place to be separated from, and now the result of that being in the mind of perception and dualistic opposites. That was really what the Course says, how much we wanted to be right against God is like, I'll make my own world to play the game the way I want it to be played. And then the ego goes, here you go. And now we have a world of perception and bodies and separation. God, think of God like the sun, and there's rays that come off the sun. In that, I actually started to adapt my idea of it, because I believe that we're as like an extension of the sun, a ray of the sun. We're not separate from sun, but there's distinct rays. So you as a spirit, as a pure I amness, are a distinct ray than me, and yet we're one. I know it's so paradoxical, but I think for the purpose of our conversation, actually what the Course says is that knowledge, because it is knowledge, eternity, God, is not the motivation for learning this Course. Peace is. Peace is the condition of knowledge because it's the condition of the kingdom. So you and I, we can't understand eternity, heaven, God without peace first. That's the prerequisite, which is now why we're here in this game, that we made it as a place to be separate. Now the Holy Spirit uses it as a game back to where we've never left. And when we wake up to it, we don't wake up to that we're God. We're always an extension of God. Now, what the Course says is not that God was bored, because God's nature is to extend. And we are the extension of the Creator, and we have our own creations that extend out forever. So I like to give my own words to say this. Just think about this. We're all together forever. And not like an individual body, but the whole entire rays of the sun, of all of creation. Think of it like almost like extending out from the top of the sun. As we start to practice forgiveness in this game, we get closer and closer to being ready for that final step where we jump beyond time, beyond form, beyond the dream. But that's not the purpose of the Course now. The purpose of the Course is to train our minds so much to only see peace and forgiveness in every appearance in the dream. It becomes a happy dream. What he says in the Course, Jesus says, is you obtain the real world, but it's still built on illusions. It's just the closest illusion that reflects heaven here. Once we understand that so fully, the need for time is over and we transcend time. But that's not where we're at right now. So to keep it really simple, what a lot of people in non-duality got caught up with is that there's this no thing and there's only me, there are no others. So like I'm alone in the entire universe, almost that like single point to singularity. But what he says in the Course that I think is so comforting is you're actually not alone in the entire universe. All of creation is with you. So that singularity where it feels like a no thing really is everything. And it is God in all directions and all facets. And then the dream, the nightmare of separation is now gone. Our minds can't go there right now. So let's keep practicing the miracle every day of keep learning how to think with the Holy Spirit until eventually there will come a time when we transcend dreams and limitations altogether.